Until now, we have believed that intelligence exists inside the mind, a bigger brain, a more powerful AI, more knowledge. We assumed that these things were what created intelligence. But is that really true? What if intelligence is not the ability to dominate the world or control everything? What if intelligence is the ability to engage with an ever-changing environment, to connect with others, and to create new forms of order? In this series, we begin exploring that question through something surprisingly familiar: the ocean. Every time I head out to the ocean, I am reminded of one simple truth: we cannot control the waves, we cannot stop the wind, we cannot change the direction of the tide, and we cannot decide what the next wave will be. But that does not mean the ocean defeats us. By observing the waves, feeling their changes, finding the right moment, and entering into a dialogue with the ocean, we can embrace its power and move as one with it. The goal is not to control the world exactly as we wish. The goal is to build a relationship with the world that is constantly changing, and that dialogue is not limited to nature. Every day, we are in conversation with our environment, making countless decisions along the way. Surfing is not simply the skill of riding waves, it is a dialogue with nature. The wind shapes the surface of the ocean. The tides create powerful currents. Swells, born far away, travel across the sea until they finally become the wave before us. A surfer cannot control any of these forces. Instead, we read the wind, feel the tides, observe the swells, and respond to the changing waves, choosing the perfect moment to act. In other words, decision-making does not happen only inside our minds. We continuously receive information from our environment, act upon it, and then learn from the results. It is through this continuous cycle that good decisions emerge. That is why every decision begins with a dialogue with the environment, and perhaps, even more importantly, through that dialogue, we ourselves are transformed. When we first start surfing, our attention is focused entirely on ourselves. How should I stand? How should I turn? How can I avoid falling? In other words, we are trying to control ourselves. But experienced surfers see something different. Their attention is no longer on themselves. Instead, they watch what the waves are about to do. How is the wind changing? How are the tides moving? Where is the wave trying to go? They sense the flow around them. Rather than resisting it, they move in harmony with the forces of nature, and then the wave begins to carry them. This is flow. Flow is not about controlling the environment, it is about feeling its changes, responding to them, and becoming one with the environment. And I believe that this idea of flow may be one of the most important keys to understanding the true nature of intelligence. Today, AI, too, is entering a new era. We are moving beyond the pursuit of smarter models and toward a future where intelligence emerges through richer relationships. Until now, the evolution of AI has largely been a competition for bigger models, more parameters, and higher performance. Of course, improving model capability is important, but if AI is to create real value in society, that alone is not enough. AI must connect with knowledge, it must communicate with people, and it must collaborate with other AI systems and with humans, making decisions that adapt to an ever-changing environment. In other words, AI is no longer evolving to become intelligent in isolation. It is evolving to express intelligence through relationships. The future of AI is not about larger models, it is about deeper connections, and that idea of connection is at the heart of what I call the intelligence field. For a long time, we have believed that intelligence exists within the individual, inside the human mind, inside an AI model, or even within knowledge itself. That is what we have assumed. But is that really true? People do not become wise simply by reading books. We grow by meeting others, through conversation, through experience, and through our relationships with society. AI is no different. Powerful models alone are not enough. AI must connect with knowledge, engage with people, collaborate with other AI systems, and continue learning from its environment. Only then can it create real value. Perhaps intelligence does not exist only inside the mind. So the question becomes, where does intelligence truly emerge? The conclusion I have come to is this: intelligence emerges through relationships between people, and AI, between AI systems, between knowledge and experience, between individuals and society. As these connections grow, information flows, ideas interact, and each influences the others. From these relationships, new meaning emerges, new decisions emerge, and ultimately, new intelligence emerges. In other words, intelligence is not a fixed capability that exists within an individual. It is a dynamic phenomenon created through relationships. That is why I no longer think of intelligence as a single model. Instead, I see it as a field, a place where intelligence can continuously grow. I call this field the intelligence field. Communication creates intelligence. Communication is what gives rise to intelligence. But perhaps the idea that intelligence emerges through relationships still feels a little abstract. So, let me explain it through something I have loved for many years: surfing. Every day, surfers face the ocean, but no single wave is ever created by just one cause: the wind, the tides, the weather, the shape of the ocean floor, and the condition of the sea as a whole. All of these forces interact with one another. Only then does a single wave appear before us. In other words, a wave is not created by one force alone. It is the result of many relationships working together. I believe the same is true of intelligence. If that is the case, then intelligence, too, cannot emerge from a single element alone. Intelligence, too, cannot emerge from a single model alone. Human experience, the computational power of AI, accumulated knowledge, past successes and failures, a shared sense of purpose, and our relationship with society. These elements continuously interact, exchange meaning, and evolve. As the world changes, only then do they begin to function as a single, living intelligence. In other words, intelligence is not confined to the human mind, nor does it exist only inside an AI model. Human, AI, knowledge, experience, purpose, society, each of these is not intelligence itself. They are the ingredients from which intelligence emerges, and what truly matters is not the individual elements, but how they connect, interact, and shape one another. That, I believe, is the true nature of intelligence. I call this space of interaction the intelligence field. The intelligence field is not a place where intelligence simply exists. It is a place where intelligence emerges, grows, and continues to evolve. Human, AI, knowledge, experience, purpose, society, environment, none of these exists in isolation. They connect with one another, influence one another, exchange information, share meaning, and continuously adapt to change. From these interactions, new understanding emerges, new decisions emerge, and new value is created. In other words, intelligence is not merely an ability possessed by an individual. It is a phenomenon that emerges through relationships. But this leads us to an even more fundamental question: where, then, do relationships themselves come from? The answer is communication. People deepen their thinking through dialogue. AI develops new understanding through its interactions with people. Organizations create value that no individual could produce alone by sharing knowledge. Society, too, has evolved through countless acts of communication, giving rise to culture, institutions, and new knowledge. In other words, human, AI, organization, society. What connects all of them is communication, but communication is more than simply transferring information. It is the process of sharing meaning, aligning values, understanding one another, and growing together through continuous change. That is why I place the phrase, communication creates intelligence, at the very heart of the intelligence field. Intelligence is never completed in isolation. It grows through dialogue, through learning from one another, and through mutual influence. If intelligence truly emerges through relationships, then the relationship between humans and AI must also evolve into something entirely new. As AI continues to evolve, we often hear people ask, will AI one day take control of the world? But I do not believe that. The goal of AI should never be to control the world. Its purpose should be to understand it, to understand people, to understand society, to understand cultures and values, to understand goals and constraints, and then, based on that understanding, to work together with people to build a better future. AI should not impose answers upon us. Instead, it should engage in dialogue, think alongside us, combine its knowledge with ours, and help create better decisions. Understanding creates cooperation, and cooperation is what nurtures new intelligence. That is why I describe the future of AI not with the word control, but with understand and cooperate. But understanding the world does not simply mean reading vast amounts of text. It means understanding people, knowledge, the environment, and most importantly, the relationships that connect them all. To understand these relationships, I believe that the knowledge graph plays a vital role. People think through knowledge, and from that thinking, we make decisions and take action, but our decisions are never determined by knowledge alone. Every day, we are influenced by the weather and the seasons, by society and culture, by laws and institutions, by the economy, by technological progress, by our relationships with other people, and by the time and place in which we live. In other words, knowledge does not exist in isolation. Knowledge gains meaning through its relationships with the environment. A knowledge graph represents people, knowledge, the environment, and the relationships between them as a single, connected network. That is why AI can move beyond simply searching for words. It can understand relationships, context, and situations, and that understanding leads to better decisions and better actions. A knowledge graph is not merely a way to organize knowledge, it is a map for understanding the world. By understanding the relationships between people, knowledge, and the environment, AI begins to understand meaning, not just words, but even understanding the world is not enough to create intelligence. Knowledge becomes meaningful through dialogue with people. It is transformed into decisions, then into actions, and finally, into learning from the results. Only when knowledge flows through this continuous cycle does it become intelligence. And that entire cycle is what I call the intelligence field architecture, which I will introduce next. I believe that intelligence is not something that is created once and then remains complete. Intelligence grows and continues to evolve within an ever-changing environment. Everything begins with the environment, society, nature, culture, technology, institutions. We are constantly shaped by the world around us. As we come to understand that environment, knowledge begins to emerge. But knowledge is not meant to be simply stored through communication between people, AI, and organizations. Knowledge is given new meaning. That meaning leads to decisions. Those decisions become actions that shape the world. Then, by reflecting on the results of those actions, learning from success and failure, new knowledge is created. that new knowledge helps us understand our environment more deeply, leading to even better decisions. In other words, the cycle begins with the environment, creates knowledge, finds meaning through communication, becomes decision, takes form through action, and returns as learning, which generates new knowledge. Once again, this continuous cycle is the intelligence field. Intelligence does not exist only inside our minds, nor does it exist only inside an AI model. It emerges through engaging with the environment, cultivating knowledge, communicating, making decisions, taking action, and continuously learning. As long as this cycle continues, intelligence will continue to evolve. That is why I believe intelligence is not inside individuals, but emerges within the field of relationships. This is the fundamental idea behind the intelligence field that I propose, and this idea is not meant to remain just a theory. Our goal is to transform this philosophy into technologies that can operate in the real world. At Chinoba Research, we are not simply studying AI as a single technology. What we are building is a foundation where humans and AI can learn together, think together, and create the future together. With knowledge flow, we transform knowledge into a form that AI can understand and use. With decision trace, we record the reasoning behind decisions, making them transparent and explainable. With trust infrastructure, we create the foundation that enables people, AI, and organizations to collaborate with confidence. With Runtime Society, we envision a future where AI acts as a member of society, creating value through cooperation. And with the intelligence field, we explore the fundamental question of what intelligence is, how it emerges, and how it continues to evolve. These are not separate research projects. They are different expressions of a single vision to connect knowledge, support decision-making, cultivate trust, enable cooperation, and foster the emergence of new intelligence. And the goal of that vision is not to build more powerful AI. Our goal is not to build AI. Of course, AI will continue to evolve. It will become faster, smarter, and capable of doing far more than it can today. But what we truly seek is not a competition to build more capable AI. It is to cultivate relationships where people and people, people and AI, AI and AI, organizations and society can understand one another, trust one another, and work together. What matters most is not more powerful AI. It is better relationships. When strong relationships are built, knowledge flows naturally, dialogue begins, new ideas emerge, and from those relationships, new intelligence comes into being. That is why AI itself is not our ultimate goal. We see AI as a force for connecting people and society. So the question is, what, then, are we trying to design? What we truly want to design is a place where intelligence can grow, a place where people exist, where AI exists, where knowledge exists, where dialogue happens, where purpose gives direction, and where everything is connected to society. None of these alone is intelligence, but when they connect, learn from one another, and influence one another, new knowledge emerges, new decisions emerge, and new value is created. That is why we do not place AI at the center of the world. Instead, we place people at the center, creating a field where AI, knowledge, dialogue, purpose, and society come together naturally. That is the intelligence field, a place where knowledge connects, where knowledge grows, and where knowledge helps shape the future. This is the future that Chinoba Research is striving to create. But this idea did not come from studying AI. In truth, it came from something the ocean has been teaching me for many years. What we truly want to design is a place where intelligence can grow, a place where people exist, where AI exists, where knowledge exists, where dialogue happens, where purpose provides direction, and where everything is connected to society. None of these alone is intelligence, but when they connect, learn from one another, and influence one another, new knowledge emerges, new decisions emerge, and new value is created. That is why we do not place AI at the center of the world. Instead, we place people at the center, creating a field where AI, knowledge, dialogue, purpose, and society come together naturally. That is the intelligence field, a place where knowledge connects, where knowledge grows, and where knowledge helps shape the future. But this idea was not born in a laboratory. For me, it was something the ocean, which I have returned to for many years, quietly taught me. Out on the ocean, the same wave never comes twice. That is why a surfer cannot simply repeat yesterday's success every time. We observe, we feel, and we decide. It is through this continuous practice that we slowly grow. I believe the same is true of intelligence. Intelligence is never something that is finished. It grows by engaging with the environment, cultivating knowledge, continuing the dialogue, making decisions, taking action, and learning again and again. Within that continuous cycle, intelligence gradually emerges and continues to evolve. That is why our goal is not to build AI for its own sake. Our goal is to design the relationships through which intelligence can continue to grow. That is what we call the intelligence field. The ocean has taught me something remarkably simple. Intelligence is not born from control. It grows through relationships. When people connect with people, when people connect with AI, when AI connects with society, through those conversations, new knowledge emerges, and new futures are created. That is why I believe communication creates intelligence. Intelligence emerges through relationships. That is the intelligence field. Thank you very much for watching.